Welcome to Cooking from the Cave. I'm Chef Pete Truziak, and today we are going to be preparing some lobster rolls. I'm going to be adding some yellow peppers, some celery, and some chopped green onions into my lobster rolls. Traditionally it's just mayonnaise and lobster, but the other key to that recipe is to have a real crispy, crunchy bread. So we're going to be doing some butter rolls, and I'm going to be showing you how to toast those up under the broiler. Let's start with the lobster because this is going to take the longest. We're going to start with some lobster tails, and we want to bring our water up to a boil. Now, what we put in this water that we're going to be boiling the lobster in, I'm going to put a half of a lemon in here, and I'm going to squeeze a little bit of the lemon juice in there, and then I'm going to drop the whole rind and all of that half of a lemon into it. We're also going to add some salt. And we're going to let this water come up to a boil, maybe about 2 pinches of salt. And you want enough water in your pot so that when we put the lobster in, they're not floating on top. They're going to drop all the way to the bottom. So you want probably about a gallon of water to start. And the amount of lobster we're using here is about 15 to 16 ounces, so almost a pound. Our water's up to a boil. I'm going to go ahead and drop our lobster tails in. Our lobster tails are going to turn a bright red color, and the meat will begin to turn white, and you'll know once you see that. So we're going to get a pair of tongs here, kind of just turn them over so we can take a peek at the meat on the inside. They're almost there. This will probably take you about 4 to 5 minutes. Let's take a look at our lobster tails. They're bright red in color, the meat is bright white, and we can remove these from that pot right now. And what I find is just putting them in another bowl. And then we're going to take this and put this in the refrigerator. Let these cool down now for about 30 minutes. If you want to speed this process up, although this is going to be hot, what I'll do is I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'll cut along the inside of the shell just to expose a little bit more of the meat. Alright, let me show you the trick with the scissors. We're going to take the scissors down the belly side of, or the underside of the tail, all the way to where the tail starts to fan out. I'm going to, with my thumb, I'm going to kind of get it underneath that cartilage there and separate the meat from the shell. I'll take my thumbs and I'll put a little pressure on the shell, just cracking it ever so lightly. What that does is it helps separate the meat from the shell itself, and then you can just get underneath it and pull the meat out. And when you're done, you can separate the shells, leave the shells off to the side, and you can make a nice seafood stock for it. And the meat, we'll go ahead and put that in the refrigerator. Alright, our lobster is chilling in the refrigerator right now. I did start a pot of corn boiling. I changed the water out from the lobster boil, and now I added new water, still added salt to it, but I got 3 or 4 ears of corn going. Let me show you how to make the filling for the lobster. We'll pull the lobster out of the refrigerator. We're going to rough chop this up. So before I do that, I do want to go through what our other ingredients are. And again, I talked about the green onions, the celery, the yellow peppers. I also am going to add, and I know this is not traditional, so please don't yell at the crazy Midwestern chef, but I'm going to add some very finely minced up apple, maybe about I'd say about 1/8 of an apple, not a lot, just enough so that there's a little bit of a crunch in here, and the tartness of this Granny Smith apple pairs very well with lobster. Alright, we're going to rough chop our lobster. So we've got our apples done. And the lobster meat's going to be nice and white on the inside. And just rough chop the lobster, large enough pieces so that it's visible, something you can, sink your teeth into. Don't make it too small. So, I got pieces that are really different sizes, but that's really just one piece. The lobster tail's bisected in half there. That's good to go. Go ahead and put that back into our mixing bowl here. And it's going to be about 15 minutes to 30 minutes in the refrigerator, depending on how much lobster you're cooling down. So keep that in mind while you're making stuff. So make a pot of corn or do something else. Maybe get your ingredients chopped up. I'm going to start with about half of that apple that we talked about. Actually, I'm going to add the whole apple because there's not that much. So about 1/8 of the apple. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of celery, 1 tablespoon of chopped green onions, and 2 tablespoons of yellow peppers. Now, the mayonnaise is the another key ingredient in this recipe. We're going to come over here, grab our mayo, and I just want you to get enough of mayo in here just so that it evenly combines. So that's 2 tablespoons right now in there. I'm going to start to mix this around. I don't want it so we're making, you know, a creamy dish here. I want something so that it still holds together. See, that looks really good in there. It's not super watery, it's not over creamy. You're still going to get a lot of great taste there with the lobster and the other, the celery and the green onions and apples that are in there. And from here we're just going to garnish it, or we're going to season it with some lemon zest as well as some salt and pepper. So I'm going to take my microplane out, and I'm going to take 1/4 of that lemon that we used half already for our boiling of the lobster in here. And I'm just going to take and zest the skin off of that lemon. If you don't have a zester or a microplane like this, go ahead and just use the juice, but use very little juice because you don't want to make this too watery. Remember, you want a thick consistency in here. Hit it with our salt and our pepper. I'm going to do about 1 teaspoon of salt, a couple cranks of pepper, and this is just black pepper. Mix this all up, and I'm going to put this back in the refrigerator while I'm toasting up the rolls. And the reason for that, twofold. 1, it'll keep it cold for you, and 2, it'll just help all those flavors come together. Now, toasting up the rolls, very simple. We're going to take our butter that we melted earlier, and I have my broiler set at high heat, and I have my rack on the second closest position in the underneath the broiler in the oven. And I'm going to brush the halves with butter, and be pretty generous with the butter. You want this to caramelize nicely, and also the texture of the bread will change once it gets underneath the broiler, and you want that. Go ahead and put these in our oven. Set a timer for about 3 minutes, but we do want to keep an eye on it depending on how high or how hot your broiler gets. But for us, we're going to do 3, and we'll come back and we'll check on those in a little bit. Alright, remember, keep an eye on the bread. And in that time, while the bread was toasting up, this looks gorgeous. It's got a nice little crust to it. We're going to transfer it to our platter here. I was able to pull, so while that was cooking, I was able to pull the corn out of the water. I used the rest of that melted butter, sprinkled a little salt on it, and our corn's ready to go. Let's go ahead and fill these lobster rolls and get ready for dinner. I'm going to put a little mixture of red leaf and green leaf greens on here. And I'll just press down where the ribs are, kind of flattens it out a little bit. Grab our lobster mixture. And I'm moving fast because I'm super hungry here. Go ahead and fill those lobster rolls up. Alright, so there you go. Lobster rolls done Midwestern style. Little added ingredients there for you. Serve it while the buns are still hot so that your guests can bite into those warm buns, and then you get that nice succulent lobster on the inside. Enjoy. Thanks for watching Cooking from the Cave. I'm Chef Pete Trusiak, and we'll see you real soon.